Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 26.
Does this sound familiar?
Oh my God, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life.
Hey guys, welcome to Small Biz Life. My name is Kristen Ingram.
And I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And we are here to help you better manage your time and your resources so that you can live life to the fullest.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
Doesn't that sound good?
I want to have an awesome life.
We do have a pretty awesome life.
We do have an awesome life. I enjoy our life. It could be better.
Well, but
that's what we have time to make changes for.
That's right. Exactly. And that actually works really well into our episode today, because today we are going to be talking about pausing, reflecting, and restarting.
That's a lot of words.
It's only 3.
Okay.
Right? Pausing, reflecting, and restarting.
Very good. I'm just not really that good at counting on my hands, so I got lost.
So if you're new to the show, my name again is Kristen Ingram. I am a certified public accountant, and I'm celebrating my 15th year helping small businesses start up, grow, and thrive to experience the joy in what should be the small biz life.
Very good. 15 years.
Yeah.
Wow. That's going back a bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey, tell our new listeners a little bit about you.
I am an information technology analyst who has an utter love for finding and eliminating systems that cause obstacles in people's lives and businesses. And I also am a very big fantasy geek, I've been told.
Yes. And you have a podcast called World Builders Anvil.
Yes. And for anyone out there who's interested in the way worlds are built or who are interested in building worlds, you should check that one out as well.
So you can find that on iTunes. You can search for World Builders Anvil, or you can go to garduel.com. That's GARDUL.com. Check out all the geekery that Jeffrey's working on. I like that. It's fun. So the reason that we decided to talk about this topic this week, the pause, the reflect, and the reset, is because this is actually something that we both did this week. And it really helped us recenter where we're going, refocus, right, on where we're going. For me, for the rest of tax season, and I think for Jeff for the rest of the year. So we kind of wanted to talk about how we went through that process. So maybe it will help you if you're in panic mode right now with your business. You know, we go so fast, right? Yeah. We're running, we're chasing after the next sales or the next opportunities. And we don't take the time to just say, all right, where am I? Am I going in the right direction? And what does the path forward look like? And
if you like the intro of the show, you'll hear me tell Kristen to breathe. And this is something we try and do for each other. Actually, Kristen was doing it for me earlier today. Because breathing is not just, it's taking a moment and thinking about exactly what she's saying, thinking about what the next steps need to be and to not overexpand yourself.
Right. So the first thing that you need to do, and this is really hard for a lot of small business owners, you need to pause. Okay. And as Jeff said, like this morning, I literally he was running circles around the house because his brain was going 45 miles an hour. And I just had to say, okay, stop what you're doing, close your eyes, and take 3 deep breaths and just focus on the moment, focus on your breathing. If you've ever looked at mindfulness meditation, right? That's one of the things you do is that you stop, you breathe, you focus in on your breath, and you get your mind to calm down a little bit.
The best always ever described to me was imagine your lungs filling in with non-damaging smoke, all of the tendrils sort of twisting around and moving into your body, and then they all come back out. And you just kind of focus on the imagery of it as well as the action of it. And that should help you. I mean, most definitely. It took me about 6 tries, but yeah, I got it down.
You stopped running around the house, like with your arms like waving around.
I got an idea. I got an idea planned out as well too. So
excellent. I'm not necessarily saying that you need to like take a day off.
No.
Okay. For me this week, my pause was about an hour as I was going through these steps. Jeff, it was a couple minutes. It doesn't have to be like, I'm taking the weekend off to reflect on, what I'm doing. You just need to stop for a few moments and clear your head out.
One of the things that you'll always hear thought leaders telling us is be intentional with your actions. And the problem is when you start hustling, sometimes you mistake the idea of hustling for getting as much done as possible. I think that's a misinterpretation of what hustling is. I think hustling is really the act of taking intentional steps forward that will get you towards your goal.
Right. And if you're on the newsletter list for Small Biz Life, one of the things I talked about this week was being intentional, being present in your business, making sure that you're going in the right direction and that you are guiding that. You're not letting outside forces guide that.
Yeah.
So that's really, when I think of being intentional, I'm thinking about being intentional with my time, being intentional with my purpose, right? And not letting those outside forces dictate what I'm going to do. And that's why I try not to check my email first thing in the morning, because that's an external force telling you, hey, you're going to spend, you're going to react to me, right? Rather than you deciding the direction where things are going to go.
Exactly.
Okay. So once you you take that pause, then you need to start reflecting. And again, reflection does not have to be this super long process.
Yeah.
I think for me, when we did this earlier in the week, to give you some backstory. So, I'm a tax accountant. It's tax season. And typically every tax season, I go through this stage where I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to get everything done by the time I want to get it done. This is so overwhelming. I have all the stuff in my office that's not started and my office is a mess. And and I was lucky enough that when I had this moment, Jeff was home. We said, all right, let's take some time. We went through, when I deliver a tax return, that tax return comes in a folder. So we created the folders for all of my clients for tax season. The people that were here, we put their stuff in the folders, and then we organized the folders based off of, is this a tax return where I'm waiting for information from the client? Is this a tax return that's not started yet? Or is this something that's not here yet? And then we went through the client list and we said, okay, these people have appointments. These people I need to reach out to. And once we went through and we did that, and it took us about an hour to do it. And Jeff was a huge help with that.
And there were some great steps too. And this is one of those things to keep in mind is her software has the ability to have a status update. And there's some pretty good predetermined statuses in there. Once you have some pretty good predetermined statuses on something, to control it, go with it. But don't be afraid to know how to and then update that as you go. For example, what was the new, we added a new, if she knows that they're not coming back, she can mark them. If she knows that they're done, there's a status saying that the filing's been accepted. I think there's a delivered status for when she's actually dropped them off, and that's really completely done. Either they've been mailed or hand delivered, depending on her arrangement with the client. And then we added in a new status because there was, maybe it was waiting for information or something like that we added.
Yeah, I don't think that was one that was in there. And then we used one appointment, appointment generated. But taking just that hour and making sure everything was categorized, everybody was accounted for. That really gave me a lot of peace, right? It allowed me to reset my brain and say, okay, now I know what the status of all of the clients are, right? And I have a system now where, these are the returns that are waiting for information. I have this file thing from IKEA. It's like a rolling cart. And what that allows me to do, it kind of allows me to visualize like, okay, I've got these ones are done. They're waiting to be delivered. These ones are in progress. I'm waiting for information. These ones haven't been touched yet. And then these remaining folders are for people that aren't here yet.
Yeah.
And even those are organized by whether or not they have an appointment.
And the great thing when there is a physical movement of a product, for her example, it's the building of this folder. She gets some information in. She scans it in for her own records because she stores it paperlessly on her end. And then she gives the information back to the clients. And then as she builds the return and it's finished, then she prints out a copy. She puts in there as well too. And then, she'll end up sending it off to them. So the way she set up her workflow, one, the good thing is it's within reach of her desk. Two, the other thing is if she's working on something else and it starts to bother her, she can turn around and look at it. And she can see the approximate status of all of the work without having to open up any applications. When she walks in her office, she can see it as well too. And over time, that's going to help her build up momentum because she's going to see the folders from the has not received start to diminish and the folders ultimately going away completely in the way she does it and she'll ultimately see the folders go away in the way she does it because she doesn't keep any of the paperwork on our physical location.
It's really nice to kind of see that flow and having everything separated out, having the statuses for all of the clients. But it's funny because just taking an hour to do that and get refocused, I feel so much more at peace. I know that now that I was starting to worry. I think I mentioned last week on the show, and I know I've mentioned it in our group, that I want to finish tax season by March 31st. And I was starting to freak out that was not going to be possible. Once I organized everything and we got that picture, I'm like, oh yeah, if I could get everybody in here, I could be done in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So now it's more on me making sure that I book appointments with the people I haven't heard from yet and get the work in here.
And the other thing too is it's not only important to take the breath at that big moment, but now for her along the way, it's taking the little breaths along the moment to go, okay, let me make sure I've gotten this stuff. I'm awaiting more information. I'm going to take the folder for them and I'm going to put it over here so I can just visually see that. And it goes away from the new information. And so it keeps her little physical workflow matching the reality of the situation. So those little breaths will help keep her focused along the way and build confidence as it gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
Right. And what that allows me to do too is it allows me to look at, so the first thing I do every morning is I say, all right, do I need to follow up with the people who are missing information? Okay, now do I need to follow up with the people who haven't booked an appointment? Okay, now I've got this, the center piece of work that these are the returns that aren't started yet. This is my, that's what I'm going to do next.
And I even believe like during the process, we did that. You go on the phone to follow up with someone that you have information for. You got the information over the phone and finished it within 15 minutes.
Yeah. That whole process just really helped me look forward and say, okay, I can get this done, because what I'm really looking forward to now is developing more content for this community. And so, but I have to get through tax season in order to be able to do that. This was a great opportunity for me to kind of say, okay, it's not that far away. You're almost at the finish line. We're almost there. So that really helped me get a basis for tax season and kind of know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
So that was great.
Awesome.
How do we do this for you this week?
Well, a lot of it has been, we've been going through Brendan Bichard's course, Experts Academy. And Experts Academy is essentially a place that if you don't have any idea how to get going and sharing information on the internet, if that's what your business goal is, or that's something that you would like to move into, I would advise people to go there first. But the thing I like is it makes you think a lot about the basic level things that you need to get done. At least the part that we're in at this point. And so I was sitting there and I was thinking, right now I have guardduel.com, and it's the home to where all of my book and actual fiction information is going to be flowing out of. And it's also right now the home for the World Builders Anvil, which is really something that's targeting people who create worlds. And there might be some interest from people who actually like to know the behind the scenes kind of stuff for world building or for fantasy fiction as well. But that's not who it's focused on. So I was getting confused on when I write my bio, who am I writing my bio for? My opt-ins, who should they be focused on? Should they be focused on the fans of the fiction, or should they be focused on the world builders, which is the majority of my traffic right now is probably on the world building side because I started with my podcast first. And ultimately, that's where, at least there's some confusion where right now I own the domain worldbuildersanvil.com. But it really got to the idea of the audiences are really who I'm targeting for my audiences are different. I really need to split up those brands and focus on one, get it going. And then once that one's going, I can move over. And the neat thing is with both of the brands, they do kind of feed off of each other, because the idea of my fiction writing will help build up my authority as a world builder. And my world building authority and all the people I've helped doing that actually gives me authority as a writer because I'm helping people write better fantasy worlds. So they do kind of build off of each other. So I'm probably going to go back and forth between the two as I build up both of the brands. But I got to take a good, serious chunk of time for each and focus on them and get something moving there and then move on to the next thing. Because especially for me, my day job is I work as an IT analyst. So I lose 40 hours off the top of every week at a minimum. So I have to be much more intentional with my time when I'm at home until I can get to a place to where I can actually spend more time on the small business part of my life.
I think the clarity for you, which is really funny because I had this moment probably like 3 or 4 months ago.
Earlier this year, yeah.
Yeah, where I had to say, all right, listen, I need to focus on one of these two things, because if you're new to the show, I have 2 brands. I have one that's called Accounting in Focus, which is a site for accounting and business students that are taking accounting courses. And it's lectures and problems and written content for students taking those classes. And then I have the Small Biz Life brand. I was given a really good piece of advice from Jamie Masters from Eventual Millionaire that she said, look, you've got to focus on one of these, right? You've got to build up one brand. And then once that's going and that's, generating income, then, if you want to focus some time on the other one, you can, but you can't build 2 brands from scratch at the same time. Accounting and Focus, I had spent time on that. It's generating money on its own. Most of my traffic is through Google searches, and it's just it's growing every month and it's doing its thing without me really having to be there. So I said, I need to spend all that time on Small Biz Life.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what I need to build next. So it was kind of funny that I had that moment earlier in the year, and then we never really thought about what Jeff was doing because we were like, well, no, it's this whole integrated thing.
Yeah.
And I think when you start to think about it, you realize that there was some overlap in who the avatar is. But they're 2 distinct brands, and they have 2 distinct product lines for those avatars. So I'm glad, I think your reflection today, I think that really helped you kind of say, okay, I'm going to spend time with World Builders Anvil, and then I'll go back to the book, and then I'll go back to World Builders Anvil, and then you kind of build as you're going up the ladder with both pieces.
Well, I think one of the things too, and this is sort of from Brendan, is if you're creating content, especially to sell, that's the content that allows you to do all of the other free stuff that you enjoy doing. Like Kristen and I love doing podcasts, if you've not noticed. Not only do I work on this podcast with her, occasionally when my co-host, Mike Miller, does not show up. Michael, yes.
Yeah. That's a joke from the other show.
That's a joke from the other show. I apologize. Whenever he does not show up, because obviously he has a full-time job and he lives several towns away from us on the other side of Hartford, which, if you know anything about Hartford, Connecticut, it's tough to travel with people on the other side of Hartford because Hartford traffic is pretty bad all the time. Not just during rush hour. It can be bad all day, all night. Sometimes either due to illness or whatever, he can't make it to record. Kristen has helped cover, or there's a few things that she really enjoys in the geek community that she's wanted to do. So, we love sharing out information with people, and we love teaching people, and we don't mind doing it for free. The reason we're looking for the products to sell, either with books or other eventual products that we'll be coming out with, will be so we have the money to spend more time to create more free content, because that's the best part of the small businesses we're doing that we enjoy, that we really love, we're really passionate about, is creating the content. And whether it's going to eventually be for free or for sale, that's more of a strategy on our end to be able to create more content, because that's what we love to do.
Right. And that's always been our thing is, if we just had more time, right? And I think the more intentional we've become, like, especially for me, I found, I have the time. I'm just not using it in the best way possible.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to keep in mind too is when you do spend the extra time and effort on content to sell, it's going to be more expensive to do than free content, because there's a higher quality expectation. And it should be on your end as the creator. You don't want to cheat your customers, so don't short sell your own products and not try and sell them. Once that book launches that you're writing, once that course launches that you're writing, once you've created that paid content, make sure to spend time to give people an opportunity to find it, because that in itself will help build up that brand. That is what will make it grow bigger. It's not just the launching of it, especially when you're a smaller starting entrepreneur. I'm
a huge fan of Brendan Burchard right now. If you look at what he's doing, and I think, we mentioned this before, he did a 4-day training for free.
Oh my God.
Which was an unbelievable free training. And, at that point you're like, wow, he gave all that away for free. And then, his course was $997. I was like, whatever. I don't care how much the course is. I'm buying the course.
It fit in our budget. We could afford it. We bought it without thinking.
Right.
Because we could afford it.
And it was totally worth it so far.
Which is one of the great things, if you follow someone like Melissa, the coach, when you've got to an area where you have cash flow, you can make those kind of decisions, especially when you have buy-in together.
Right. And if you're at that point where you're like, I don't have the cash flow to invest in things like that. I don't have the resources. I have too much debt. We're not in a good financial position. Go check out melissathecoach.com. Melissa is doing a wonderful job helping people getting their finances in order. Her philosophy is very similar to the philosophy that we use to get out of debt. And she's a really good coach. She'll walk you step by step through that process to get you in a better financial position.
And if you're an online entrepreneur too, start looking at people who give away, who have good reputations that do free content, whether it's your Brendan Burchard, your Michael Hyatts, any of these people. And there are several who give away great free content. It puts more work on you, but sometimes you have to spend time if you can't spend money.
All right. And that's one thing that Michael Hyatt has always said. He said, everything that I sell, I also give away for free. It's just when we sell it, it's packaged together. There's there's a logical flow. You don't have to sort through everything. But that's the thing. So if you think about it, everything that's in one of Michael Hyatt's courses, you can probably find for free on his website. You just have to go dig through all that content.
Or maybe it's in this podcast, or that's the more difficult thing with Michael Hyatt. Someone who's been out there that long. There's so much content that good luck finding it.
Right. But so, but that's really helped us kind of reflect on what we're doing, right? That's taking Brendan's course is making us pause. It's making us reflect on what we're doing and to help improve what we're doing. So that way, as we're resetting, and it doesn't, resetting doesn't mean doing a complete 180 from what you're doing. It just means tweaking and improving. I'm in Kim Raluna's Freedom Hackers group on Facebook, and she even came out last week. She had a great launch about a month ago. And she said, I've been looking at the Facebook ads and I'm retooling things. I'm looking at what worked and what didn't work. And, next time when I go forward, it's going to be better. This was great. I did a really good job this time, but next time is going to be unbelievable because I've learned from what I did. I reset, I'm retooling. And so it doesn't have to be, I'm completely starting from scratch. You have to look at what you're putting out there right now and is it getting results? One of the things I'm trying to work on is to build the audience for the podcast. And so I put together a social media content sharing schedule. I'm in a whole bunch of groups on Facebook, and all of these groups have different days where you can share your own content. So, I've said before on the show, I'm a big fan of Nosby. I put a reoccurring event in Nosby for each one of these groups so that it automatically pops up on my task list to share my content. Well, last week, I had done that all the week before. And when our episode came out last week, we had the third highest download day we've ever had. And that's because, I had spent the week before sharing our content. We had people subscribe. And so when this week's episode came out, the numbers were awesome. The numbers were great. So, look at those efforts that you're doing and saying, hey, is that worth it? Right now, if the numbers had been about the same as they were before, I might have said, maybe it's not worth me taking the time to share in these groups, or maybe I'll give it a couple more weeks to see what happens. But I've got to keep watching the numbers.
And this is one of the great strengths of pausing and actually thinking intentionally about what you're doing. So another strategy that you could take off the same thing is, okay, I shared into all these groups. What days did I get results? What days did I not get results? And sit there and go, okay, well, what could I change about that post? Maybe the headline wasn't very catchy. Look to see, if you don't get any traction when you share out your content for a whole week, look at it's probably because they're not clicking through it. And that's always, that's the great thing on social media. Sit there and go, okay, I go into my, stats for the site. I can see where the traffic came from. So I can see if it came in from groups. And you can sit there and go, oh, what? I didn't really get any traction off the episode at all, which means no one noticed my post. So maybe it's something to do with the image I shared out. Maybe it was something to do with the headline. Pick one thing and change it the next time you share out that post. And that way you can see, wait, I did really good with my day 3 post where I had a slightly different image that has a quote. Maybe it was the background of the quote. Maybe it was the headline of the quote, but that day's share did better than my other day's shares. I got more likes, I got more shares or more comments. Look to see which ones are successful and try and switch it around to see if you get benefits from other groups as well too.
Right. And I think that's huge, looking at your numbers and seeing where you're getting traction. Even when you're doing like a traditional mailing or you're doing ads in local publications, don't put the same ad in every publication.
No.
Switch it up. Say, who reads this publication? How can I get them engaged? And then see which ones work. Rotate them around different publications and say, okay, this one brought in a lot of new customers. I got a lot of phone calls from this. Let's try this ad in this other publication we advertise in and see, does that work over there as well?
Yeah. And one of the bigger important reasons in non-digital media to do this is you can never ask people how they heard about you. They're almost always wrong. There have been surveys that have shown that people will actually say, oh, I heard about your product / business / service on TV. And the people sending out the campaign actually did nothing on TV.
Yeah.
So people don't remember necessarily where they heard about you from, but they heard about you from somewhere. So if you can pull out some abstract thing from the actual ad, was it the one with the picture of this, the picture of the cat or the picture of the dog? Because I'm trying to sell veterinarian services. Yeah, it was the dog one. Oh, okay. And that was the one in this newspaper.
Right. Or you could do, if a lot of times with advertising, we're doing like a coupon code or promo code.
Yeah.
You know, if they give you the coupon code, you know where it's coming from. And
Specifically.
Right. Do a different coupon code for every publication that you're in, for every ad that you do, to see where the traffic is coming from. Because the great thing with online is it's really easy to see where your traffic is coming from.
And if it's coming through your site or your social media pages, back to your site, it's easier because you can get in and see the stats of if they click through or not. But when you're sharing it out in other groups, you don't get that benefit. You can see if they liked it or if they shared it or they comment on it. And all of those things are important because ultimately you're creating content for them in those areas. Don't think of it just as you're creating a link back to your website. That's an inappropriate thing, or you end up doing something I did wrong for a long time and still kind of do because I haven't rescheduled my social media enough yet, is the day after my podcast goes live, it goes out into Twitter once. It goes into Facebook once. If I share it out anywhere, I do. But I try and do it all in one day. And I see this all the time, you know, in some of the groups I'm in, where I'll see the same blog post in 15 different Facebook groups. And
all at the same time.
All within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You're making a mistake because, one, that might not be the appropriate time to put it there. But two, for someone like me, that if I wasn't on in those 15 minutes, I would not see any of those.
Right. And that's, you know, one thing that I see is like with the entrepreneurs that I know, we are in a lot of the same groups on Facebook. So if you were to share content, you know, one time in all of those groups, if you were able to, Jeff's right. You have that one block, right? That it goes up in all the blocks or all the groups in one day at the same time.
Yeah.
And if somebody misses that, they miss the shares to all of those groups.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to be really intentional about spreading out your posts, spreading out your advertising, spreading out your message so that you capture the most people you can. So this week, I want you to, you know, when you start to get overwhelmed, you know, and I know a whole bunch of you that listen, you know, because we're having conversations where, you know, you're posting in the Facebook group, which if you're not in our Facebook group, it is facebook.com/group/smallbizlife. Or you can search Small Biz Life Community on Facebook. But I know that this is an issue for a lot of you that are listening, is that you're starting to feel overwhelmed, right? You had your goals in January and now, you know, you don't feel like you're making the progress that you should be making. Maybe there are time constraints. There might be money constraints, but this is the time when a lot of people start to kind of freak out.
Yeah.
And so I want you to take some time this week when you start to feel that way. I want you to pause, take a couple deep breaths. Okay. Get your mind recentered. I want you to spend some time reflecting on what's working, what's not working. You know, maybe you just need to get organized. A product like Nozbe is great for that because it'll manage all of your projects, all of your tasks. And if you go to Nozbe.com and you put in code SmallBizLife, you can save 10% off. But they also have a free trial, which is fantastic. Go through, get yourself organized, reflect on what you're doing, and then figure out what your path is forward.
Yeah. And when you get stuck, here's the two things that are essential for you to think about. First, your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? And then who you're doing it for. Those are the two most important things that you should think about when you're making the decisions. That's what set my path today. Was my why determined why I was focusing on World Builders Anvil first instead of my book.
Yeah.
So think about your audience, think about your why. Those should answer all of your questions.
And why is critical. Absolutely critical. Because when you're tired and you're stressed and you don't want to do this anymore, having a solid why will get you through it.
And why, we'll tell you that in a different episode.
We'll talk about that soon. Thank you so much for joining us this week. if you want to support the show, one of the best ways that you can do that is you can go to smallbizlife.com/Amazon, and Amazon kicks us a small percentage of your purchase. So as you're starting to think about, getting outside, the weather's starting to warm up. Maybe you're thinking about getting some running shoes, getting a Fitbit. I know the Fitbit Ultra comes out in a couple weeks. I will be getting one of those. Jeff is very distraught about that. Yay, tracking. As you're starting to think about, maybe I need new hoses for outside, or, I need to get my lawnmower repaired. So I'm going to buy some parts because Amazon sells everything. I mean, it's crazy. You're starting to think about gardening. If you're going to go to Amazon, think about going to Amazon through smallbizlife.com/Amazon and, help support the show while you're getting ready for spring. So thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait to speak with you again next week. Take care. Thank you for listening to Small Biz Life. If you enjoyed the show, please take a few minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher. Please visit smallbizlife.com to view today's show notes, take this week's poll, join the Facebook community, follow us on Twitter, or submit a question for the mailbag. Support the show by checking the resources page or by going to smallbizlife.com/Amazon whenever you shop.
This was Small Biz Life. This was Small Biz Life.